I wonder then, one way, I guess, of looking at, really broadly looking at, I guess, career would be to like think of the lessons you learn in how to do the job and the lessons you learn in how to get the job, and as two sort of broad strands. And I think everyone, is different on this and what they kind of pick up and how they go about their approaches. But I wonder for yourself, when you were leaving then Guildford and going into London, and that the changes that are required in having to think about things differently when you're moving from, I think, discovering a love for acting, training in it, and then figuring out how it fits in with the world. What were any of the sort of lessons that maybe come to mind now around either doing the job or getting the job that were sort of learnt over that time of going, I need to think about things differently here, in that sort of, I guess, new period? I mean, there must be so many to pick, but I mean, does that spring to mind?
That's it. I think everything. I mean, that's so funny because I always think drama school is great for what it does and the tools it might give you and stuff like that. But you really, with this business, I think you really learn on the job. You just do. And you don't know, they can give you all the audition classes you like in drama school, but you don't know until you're standing in front of those people and you're not getting a mark at the end of it. You might get a job. It might change your life. And that's when you realize it, And I think what I really kind of started to learn, because I didn't work for a long time out of drama school. I had a terrible time, and I ended up ripping tickets on The Lion King for months and months and months. It was about a year before I got my first job. And my auditions at that time, and they were few, but when they were there, I didn't do well in them, I think, because I went in expecting not to get the job. Because I'd been out of work so long maybe, or I'd seen my friends, and it beats you down. And you're told in drama school as well, only like 2% of actors are working and 98% aren't. The thing I've learned, I suppose, over the years is to kind of go, I don't want to be in the 98%. I want to be in the 2%. Mm-hmm. And when I walk into an audition now, I am walking in kind of going, not that I have the job, but I have prepared and I feel like what I'm about to give them is good enough to get the job. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what they want. And I have no control over that, because I can walk into an audition, they can look at me and go, wrong type, creased. Mm-hmm. And that's the reality of it. And nothing you do in that meeting will get you the part or not. It's as simple as that. And a director told me years ago, I did The Beauty Queen of Leenane in Theatrical York, a role you've played yourself. And I went for the first day of rehearsals, and the director said to me, he said two things. He said, you've got a great agent, he said, because she bugged me to see you. And you at the time, I just really had musicals on my CV. Mm-hmm. I said, I didn't want to see you, but I just did it to shut her up. And you came in, and I went in at first, and and he said, you walked in, you were first on the day, and you solved all our problems, because we just went, well, it's his unless someone else better comes in, and that's what people behind the desk really want, is for you to go in and solve their problems. And if you think like that, you go a long way. Nerves are always going to be there, but you kind of go in thinking, at least I'm well prepared, I'm going to do a good job. It's as simple as that. And that's worth it all. Really. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be very similar in the way of, I guess, over time, the same as yourself, going, well, what level of control do I have in this? What can I control within it? And I sort of started to create my own sort of criteria for it. Do you know what I mean? Before going in, going, look, what are the things that I'm going to do within this audition that I'll be happy with at the end? Yeah. So, when you talk about that professionalism that you go in with, it's going, well, I'm going to have this thing learned off. I'm going to do these 4 or 5 things within it. I'm going to present myself in this way. And then whatever else comes up, if they're like, right, Grant, that's great. And then let's look at it this way, or let's do that way, or whatever. At least I can come out going, the bits that I've set myself that I know are a high professional standard, I've done.
Yeah.
So that just allows me to be able to walk away from it then afterwards, irrespective of how it goes, knowing, I've done that. And I think the other thing that stayed in my mind, at least, is never trying to, in a way, win or prove yourself right in an audition. I can remember going, and it was for Regent's Park, and I've never been back, and I don't think it's because of this. But I can't remember now the play. It was a Shakespeare play, And I can't remember the director now, but he said something in the way in that was like, oh, Bristol Old Vic. Oh, yeah. And he turned to his assistant director and he was like, you know, people from Bristol Vic are excellent. Always excellent. Right, Andrew, take it. And for some reason, just hearing that made me suddenly go,
yeah, pressure.
Yeah. And I'd learned the thing off and I went in, they're like, would you like the script in your hand? And I was going, no, I've learned it off, you know. And I started into it, and this little seed of doubt had been planted by this excellence thing.
Yeah.
And I got maybe, 4 or 5 lines in and I blanked. And I was like, I'll just start again. I'll start again. They were like, yeah, sure. Do you want the script? I was like, no. I'm good. And, you know, same thing again, same point, blanked. And I began to get lost in this. They were like, look, you know, you don't feel like you need to learn a thing off. And I got lost into this. No, I've learned it off. I've done my work. And the same thing, I think a lesson I've learned over time as well, you know, is that you're not going to, if there's a disagreement with the director, that you're not going to win an argument, nor should you in an audition. No. You're just there to, like you say, do what you can in that situation. But yeah. And then I wonder, what else from maybe outside of the world of getting the job, being in the job, is there anything else you've picked up over time? We were talking a little bit about that kind of sense of, you know, creating a company sense. Is there anything else you've picked up over time that really, I guess, has been really useful that maybe you've thought differently about over time?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because like you go to London, and I guess, you know, kind of whatever drama school, but actually then coming out of drama school and going to London to try and, you know, kind of forge some kind of career and that. And I think in that first year when I didn't work, I kind of had a bit of an inferiority complex where, you know, and it was kind of bit by bit, it was kind of bed into me as the year went on, because you kind of go, oh, nothing's happening. And I remember doing my first job doing Pirates of Penzance, and we had 3 weeks rehearsals at Regent's Park, and I was thinking, God, 3 weeks isn't a lot, you know, it's a big musical, but I was thinking, for sure, you know, this is like London, this is like the West End, this is all that, and we're going to walk in and people just open their scores and we'll sight read, you know. And I, having the music degree, I could sight read music, and fine. And I remember being in that rehearsal room, and we sat down to do the first music call, and we were about to start singing, and one of the guys put his hand up and said, sorry, hang on, I need to tape this. And this is like 2001, so there's no iPhones, there's nothing like that. And he went over to his bag, and I thought he was going to get like a dictaphone out or something like that. And he didn't. He pulled out like basically a ghetto blaster, like a big ass, you know, tape recorder, and he brings it over, and he kind of presses play and record at the same time. That's how old it was. And yeah, and then he said, oh, it's not working, hang on. And like the whole thing is, like the whole rehearsal is in a heap. And then he opens the back and he goes, I have no batteries in here. So he goes over and gets the big batteries, you know, the big kind of roundy kind of ever ready batteries, and he opens the pack and they go all over the floor. And I was going, I expected us to open the score and sight sing it. And instead I'm going, and I kind of realized then, kind of going, man, I've got skills I can bring here. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's no need to put myself down and go, you know, kind of, I'm lucky to be here. And you are lucky to get a job. I don't mean that. But when you're there, you do have something to bring. And that all came, again, going back to Waterford, that all came from that. But I guess what it taught me is that not to think less of yourself, because either of inexperience mm-hmm. or where you're from or anything like that. So I go in, I feel like I'm on a similar level to everyone, mm-hmm. you know, where I'm going in going, okay, I have something to bring. It's specific to myself, and it might not be what they want, but it's something. And I think that I've really learned that in the room. So I, like you say, you're talking about, you know, having a voice. I always think that, you know, every actor in that room has a voice because they've got the gig. It's as simple as that, and to have that confidence of it, you know.
Yeah, I think for me at least, it's that I remember there was, I think someone in drama school said it or whatever, and it was some psychologist had said a thing that basically every sort of child by the age of 3 or 4 goes through every possible state and level of emotion. And so right, the acting teacher was basically saying, if you're thinking there's something that you can't do emotionally, you can. You've already done it as a toddler. So he said all the extremes are already there. They're already inherent. It's not something you're reaching for. It's something a little more internal. And I guess for me over time, it's been the same understanding, even when it comes to thinking about casting, when people go, because occasionally in your head, you'd be like, oh, am I really that kind of guy to fit in this casting group? And part of me just began to shift that thought out. I'll just go, I'm an actor and I'm a human being. Yeah. I have access to all the things that all the other human beings have. irrespective of their level of status within a company, you know what I mean? Because easily you can find yourself that same thing of going, I haven't got the same amount of experience of so-and-so. But as a human being, can I do the things that that guy is doing? Yeah, and yeah, it's all in there. Do you know what I mean? So I think for me, that was a real sense of learning that lesson over time, going, there's not the same limits I might put on myself in that way. It's all sort of there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot for me to bring, really.
Yeah. I think that's huge, to have that, and it's hard, but to have a bit of confidence in yourself to say what's different that I can bring that's unique to me. Like one story would be like I auditioned for a big sci-fi series, this is 2019, end of 2019. I auditioned for a big sci-fi series, and they sent me these lines, and it was like they were in English, but it said, look, it's going to be in an alien language, eventually, but the sides are in English, so grand, and it's a completely CGI role, it's all motion capture, so fine. And I'm looking at it going, so why would they cast me? Like, what's the deal? You know what I mean? Like, it could be anyone, because you won't even know it's the person, because you look like a 10-foot alien, so 5'8" Irish Jamie Beamish walking in, what have I got that's going to get me the job, or what can I bring, or whatever. And I remember, because I had been filming Bridgerton, and the next morning I was on the train coming down, and we'd done a night shoot on Bridgerton, so I'd literally gotten 2 hours sleep, and I was kind of wired, and I kind of went, do you know what, I'm going to go shit or bust on this. And so I translated the lines into Irish on the way down on the train, and I went in chatting to the director, and he was chatting about the language, about the sounds it made, and what way they're going to go with the alien language. And I said, oh, that's interesting, because in Irish you wouldn't kind of make those sounds very different that way. Oh, do you speak Irish? I said, a little bit. He said, oh, right, yeah, could you do something for me? I said, oh, funnily enough, I've translated the lines, grand. So I did it, and I just kind of went, it is really shit or bust, but I kind of went, again, kind of trying to think of something different, something that I'm going to be able to offer him. That could have backfired in my face now. He could have gone, what the hell is this, weirdo coming in, going in, with Irish, like. But actually, I got the gig. I got the job, and it was just a thing. But like, I would have owned the failure of that as well. Do you know what I mean? If I didn't get it and I made a mess of it, and that's happened to me enough times in auditions as well. But I went in with a big idea, and I went in confident with it, and kind of going, this is a take, or this is something I have to offer, and whether it works or whether it doesn't, at least I gave it a go. So I think kind of things like that are, it's always good to kind of think of that, when going in.
I think that's great. And what it says to me is that taking that unique perspective. So, what can I do differently is very much like, what uniquely about me can I apply to this?
And and it goes back to like Waterford Youth Arts and Red Kettle and Red Kettle. Like, think perpendicular. But you think this is the idea. This is what they want. Well, how about give them something they don't know they want? Yeah. I think kind of there's a lot to be said for that. Surprise someone in an audition. Now, be different. Like, don't go in a frogman suit or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of it's within, there is boundaries. But I kind of think, I always think the interesting choice is the one that's not on the page. It's the one that you kind of you find some other way, because they always tell you in drama school about play against what you think. I think that's good too, because that's what makes kind of interesting presentations, interesting offers.
Yeah, you can get lost in the sense of what you think is right, and what you think is right is often the kind of shared idea of what's most obvious about this, as opposed to what are the other rights, like you say, that are perpendicular to it. What are the other ways in which this could also be right, and bringing that in, because even if it is slightly off-piste, you know what I mean, they'll get from the way in which the confidence in which you go with that idea, that you can do the obvious as well. And if they're confused, they can always ask, but at least you've given them a real sense of variety and something different, You mentioned there, obviously, Bridgerton, which, Jamie, congratulations, man. I mean, that's, when I saw that, I was like, but, well, for me at least, and I'm sure it wasn't for you, but for me, it was like finally, in that, you were landing. I mean, there's been Derry Girls and there's been so many other things, and London Irish and so many things, but to be landed beautifully in this Netflix thing that's gone internationally massive in this excellent part was like a real sense of finally. It made me think there, just when you were talking about owning the failure of an audition as well, that I think, part of the difficulty for all of us, I guess, is dealing with those because I always think about the plus and minus of an audition is that, like you say, getting it can change your life, but not getting it can be a real kick in the dreams, you know. So
yeah,
I
I've had
wonder
a
over
load of those.
time,
Yeah.
yeah. So I wonder over time, like how have you learned to manage that? Because I'm sure that for every Bridgerton, there's been others that have been right on the cusp of something immense that then didn't go that way for whatever reason. How have you, I guess, learned to manage that in your own thinking?
Yeah, you learn not to spend the money already. Do you know what I mean? And it's not easy. Like, it really isn't. And also then when you get to a certain kind of, sometimes when you get recalls and stuff like that, you know, and you're thinking, this is looking good. I think I have a good shot at this, you know, the terrible thing called hope. And yeah, and it's not easy, and it doesn't get any easier as you know, the years go by. Like, every audition I get, I try and do it and then forget about it. Yeah. Because like you've no control after it's done. You know, you send off a tape, it's done, it's gone, you forget about it. And it's funny, isn't it? Because like it's the ones that I expected more to get, I never got. And it's the ones I didn't expect to get, I seem to have gotten over the. I never expected to get Bridgerton. God, you know, kind of the posh English twist and the villain and all that. And actually, I remember my tape for that. I didn't really rate that tape at all. I just sent it in, and it was a thing of, they send me 13 pages to learn and to put on, and I was kind of going, oh, this is like, you know, because you know, you have to learn these things, and like it takes, like, that's 2 days of your life nearly, and try and shoot it, and it's very hard to learn lines when you're kind of going. I was just thinking to myself, I don't think I'll get this. I don't think I have a shot at this. So again, my own advice, I'm not heeding, because the doubt creeps in. And I hadn't done anything in a while. I'd had a, you know, kind of a quite enough year the year before, and I was kind of thinking, this is not the one. I don't think this is the one for me. And I just turned down another tape for something else, so I couldn't turn down this tape for my agent because I didn't want them to be annoyed with me. And I did it, and 3 scenes, and literally sending the takes that I got through, that I didn't mess up the lines. And I remember looking at it, but I had made a kind of a big choice. I've made him a bit grotesque and all that kind of stuff. And I sent it in, and I remember showing the tape for the crack to Mick Quinlan and Nan O'Riordan in Shannon Airport, of all the places. We were on a spin to Galway to see a show. And like, Mick was looking at it going, oh, Beamish, what are you doing? Like, you know, so fine. And then, but it took 3 weeks, but 3 weeks later, then I get an offer, like, out of nowhere. And I kind of went, what? And I was thinking, God, like, there you go. You just don't know. You never, ever, ever know. And yeah, so like that one I completely forgotten about, and actually in a way it was making fun of as something of how not to do a tape, and it came back at me kind of going, there you are, look, and now it's the biggest show in the world. I mean, like, it makes no sense, but there you are. I don't think the business makes sense a lot of the time anyway. So how do you cope with the ones you do get and the ones you don't get? You stop trying to make sense of it, I think, eventually. But yeah.
I mean, I think there's a quote Anthony Sher has around in Year of the King around try not to think about an audition. It's like try not to breathe, which I think just stays with me continually. But I mean, I guess I think of them now just as part of the job. That my job isn't doing the acting when I'm casting the acting. My job is also auditioning and doing the best job I can on each one, irrespective of what might happen. But I mean, what you say there around making bold choices, I have a little note. Whenever I get to I don't do many, I guess, takes when it comes to self-tape. And I think it's from probably working on Fair City and there not being an opportunity to really do things more than once. So I've got a sense of, I just do it once and then it's kind of grand, you know, but I always do another one. I have a little note to myself, which is just care less. Because irrespective of what the audition is, there'll be a little element of me that's kind of wanting to get it right or wanting to do my thing the way I wanted to do it. Yeah. And I always just do one that is just a throwaway. Do you know what I mean? Forget all of it, care less, and do one. Yeah. And that usually is the one that is sort of like the better of the lot.
I think that's a great point, because what I always say is shoot the rehearsal, you know. Kind of, because you'd be so surprised when you look back and you kind of go, look at myself, judging myself in the other ones, While in that one, I'm just getting on with it. I'm just doing it and just being. And actually, you know, that's the one that's the most truthful. And also as well, with tapes especially, you don't have to send the perfect tape.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with self-taping is that you're trying to make it perfect all the time. So if you stumble on a line, if you get a line wrong, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? I don't think, I really don't think they mind. And if it's the one where you're kind of going, oh, the light's a bit wrong there or whatever, but, you know, the thing is, you know, but my eyes look real, you know what I mean? The kind of the reaction is real. That's much more worth it than worrying about, you know, a bit of hair out of place or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I have friends who, you know, do, you know, 20 plus takes of a self-tape or whatever. And I couldn't, I'd go insane. I try to keep it to like 3 at max. And if I'm in a sort of 80 to 100% element of that little bit of, I think it's somewhere in that bracket of goodness, then that's, I'm grand, you know what I mean? If they call me in for a meeting, then it's great.
Yeah. But and do you tape with someone? Do you have someone reading off?
I do, and because we're in lockdown now, it's my girlfriend, and not a professional actor, although getting better every day. But sometimes it can be a little sort of hearing the lines called off. But I do, although I think it's not always possible, because if you're out and about, you're traveling places, you're on tour, you might have an actor around you to be able to jump in. But in general, wait, do you?
No, I don't. I know I don't. I never have someone read with me anymore. I did at the beginning when, you know, the tapes were first coming in, but I always felt that I was more worried about the person helping me. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm worried about their time and worried about, like, you know, kind of importuning people. I know, like, that's the thing. Anyone I ever asked, there was never any problem, you know, with people helping. Actors want to help each other if it's an actor, or, you know, kind of, you know, if it's, you know, family member, friend, whatever, you know, grand. But I just kind of go, because I'm a sound nerd, I tape them off, and I trigger them through QLab with a Bluetooth keyboard under my foot. So I do them like it's like a pedal. Yeah. And so, and funny enough, it was after that I started getting the gigs from tapes, because before that it wasn't very often, and if it was, it's because there was no tapes off or whatever. And I'd get it in the room. I might get the gig in the room, but off tapes I was finding it very difficult. But now I think because the worry kind of goes away, but that's just me, where I like I say, I was worried about other people's time, but everyone has their own way of doing it, of course, you know. Like absolutely. But I kind of go, I can make my own mistakes and not feel bad about someone else. So I have one I've one to do in the morning now, and I kind of go, and I know the crack, like, you know, I'll tape the lines off in the morning, and I'll be standing over there with, you know, with the keyboard, and my toes kind of hitting the next line. It's funny, like, and
the benefit of that, and I think it's a direction I'm graduating towards, is that no one gets to see you at the worst, swearing. You know what I mean? When you're missing lines and you're going,
big time.